recording this so that you guys can look back at this, any information that Spencer gives you. I'm going to introduce Spencer here real quick, and then he's going to be able to kind of take it from there. What this is about is Spencer has a wealth of knowledge, like the most educated dude I know when it comes to supplementation. He has been in the health and fitness field for a extremely long time. How long would you say you've been in the health and fitness field, Spencer?
I mean, probably 15 years with the nutrition-based stuff, and then with the supplementation since 2013.
Yeah, a really, really long time. So this guy knows what he's talking about. He's traveled all around the United States. Are you still doing a lot of traveling?
I mean, obviously with what's been going on, it's been limited.
Yeah.
But yeah, around Texas, I've been definitely moving around more.
Right.
Not as much as I want, but
sure.
Yeah, still.
Sure.
And then once the country gets back open, then it'll be game on again. But
Cool.
Just for the time being, just with circumstances, it's been a lot less than normal.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, that's my kind of introduction for you, sir. Feel free to take the floor from here. I'm going to ask you to kind of lead you through just some questions. So let's just start off just kind of with your background. I know I touched on it just a little bit, but just kind of give the people a little more info.
Sure. My name is Spencer Murphy. Nice to meet you guys if I haven't met you before. Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate it. Like Joel was saying, I've been in the health and wellness based stuff for quite some time now. I've always gravitated towards natural healing and natural stuff, and the fitness related, and really just trying to stay off of like the prescription medicine, the prescription stuff for a long time. So my background is really in regards, or really deep with my own personal care. So most of the things that I've experienced or that I can, talk to people about or suggest for folks are things that I've personally done for a very long time now. And my big thing with supplements is I won't replace food with supplementation. I think there's a place for supplements, especially when it comes to essential nutrients and things that necessarily aren't found, or that aren't found in food very much anymore. But I'm on the same page with Joel that I think that food should be always number one priority. And then if there's something that's lacking, that's where you add the supplementation into it, is to make up for what maybe you just can't get from food. I'm a huge advocate for self-care, and really just just knowledge sharing. We're going to talk about supplements and stuff here. I'm going to give you guys some good information about the Xendurance stuff, but a lot of the information is going to be just general. So I'll mention certain things that Xendurance has in their products, but it's stuff that you can find in other products too. So it's not specifically like, hey, this is a supplement sales call. This is really just to give you guys some content and to answer some questions.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. And as you guys know, and what I preach about a lot, right, we got to get it in our foods first, but there are, what Spencer was saying, there is some stuff that it's either very difficult for us to get those type of nutrients in our food just because we don't tend to go out and get it. Or it's just something maybe we don't like. We don't like fish or the taste of fish. And it's still something essential that we need for our overall health. And I talk to you guys a lot about optimal health and being able to get there. And this is why I wanted to kind of bring Spencer on. And so the first question I have for you, Spencer, is, and we kind of touched a little bit on it, is why supplement? Why should people get supplements? Why should everybody be considering supplementation? Just a kind of general baseline on that.
So with food production these days, food's been overproduced and really just, if you think about it just from like the crop basis, farms have been abused for years and years and years. They plant crops that pull nutrients out of the soil. Wasn't until recent times that they started to rotate crops to be able to put stuff back in. But to be just completely frank about it, the amount of nutrients that you would get even from an organic farm doesn't come close to the amount of nutrients that used to be in produce and other things that you could grow. Now, the place where you could potentially get it is like, say you had a homestead and you cleared the land and you planted your own stuff. Then you have access to really good things and you maybe not need to supplement as much. But the fact that food's been overproduced for decades, there's a lot of things that used to be there that just aren't there anymore. So there are certain supplements that should get put in just because lack of nutrient density these days.
Agreed. Totally, man. Really well said. And which leads into my next question perfectly. When it comes to supplementation, right, does quality matter, right? There's a bazillion different supplementation places out there, right? Some people get from Costco, some people get from GNC, right? I mean, it's like, it's so intense when you think about supplementation and this and that. Tell us a little bit about quality, why quality matters, and specifically where Xendurance kind of separates itself when it comes to quality.
For sure. So the source and the amount play a huge factor. So within the science community, they'll do studies. And within the studies, they'll test a certain ingredient or brand or whatever, and they will take the quality and the amount, test it, and then that's what gets published and put out to the public as, hey, this certain thing works this way. The unfortunate part about the supplement industry, and really just, you know, food in general and so on, is a lot of stuff gets tested at a really high quality and a really good dose. The science is put out to the community, and then companies will use a lesser quality with a dose that wasn't tested and put it out to the public and make the same claims as if they were using the quality and the amount that was actually proven. So an example that I will bring up with folks quite often is there's only one creatine in the world that I would ever put my name behind, and it's actually Creapure Creatine. It's a German company, and their creatine has been proven to be the only one that actually does anything positive within the body. It's 99.98% pure, and the next best creatine is up to 88%. Right? So when companies make claims about what creatine does, in most cases, they actually will claim the stuff that Creapure proved and then put a lesser version in. So a lot of people have these really bad negative associations to creatine because of the low quality ones that are put out into the public. Using Creapure doesn't have any of the negatives associated to it at all. It's really about one, and I might be off on the number here, but you'll see that's a big ratio. So it's like 1 out of 1 million people has a issue with taking a external creatine. 1 in 1 million people has an issue with Creapure specifically.
Right.
Negative side effects like bloating and cramping and all the other things that are associated with creatine are the lesser versions, but Creapure itself doesn't. So the benefit of using creatine, just so you guys can get a little bit of this, is unless we're all consuming anywhere between 3 to 5 pounds of red meat every single day, chances of us having low phosphocreatine in our system's pretty likely. And having a low phosphocreatine system kind of dampers the rest of the body functions because it's a very important system within our bodies. And if it's low, it can potentially deplete the other systems quicker. So supplementing creatine, or Creapure specifically, has been shown to have some really positive health benefits, just overall health and wellness. But if you're listening to the mainstream way that they're promoting it is it's for little guys to get big. When in reality, the data suggests that it's one of the best things that human beings can take just to be healthy. right? Not the norm, because that's not how it's promoted. But when you look at the real science suggests that it could be one of the best things for just everybody to take for normal health and wellness. Not a performance-based thing. The performance is really the bonus, but for brain function and energy through the day and hormone production and regulation and a whole bunch of other things that have been tested and shown to be really positive, those are the things that you want. The performance is a benefit, yet most people won't do it because the perception is different because of the lesser quality stuff that's on the market. So with Xendurance, we always go with the higher end stuff. So we've been making pharmaceutical grade research dose vitamins for the medical community in Europe for over 20 years. So when we formulate a product, we do it based off of those studies that I was talking about. They test the quality. So we use that same quality, and then they use a specific amount. We use that same amount, right? So that we have, we can ethically promote it and say, hey, this product potentially can do these things. Obviously with supplements, you can't make any hard claims, but the data suggests that it could have a benefit of these certain things. And we can sleep at night because we're using the quality that was used and the amount that was used.
Right. Yeah. And that's something that, a lot of people go to me. I've been with Spencer for a very long time. And when I say like, hey, here's this bag of protein and it's $70, right? Or it's $60. How much is the because it's different now, right? Or is it around 65? Okay. So $65. People go, whoa, I can go to Target, Walmart, blah, 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 and get this brand, right? And I always have to remind them, like, why do you think it's that expensive, right? That it's separating itself from everyone else because of exactly what kind of Spencer was saying with Xendurance. And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Xendurance has always kind of led the field kind of silently with its quality. Is that a true statement to say?
Yeah, we've never wavered from the quality that we put out. That's why we're not as mainstream as we would like to be, is because where competitors of ours may, cut corners in order to increase their profit margins and therefore have a bigger marketing budget, we'd rather put the money into the products themselves and allow for the growth of the brand to be organically through people sharing, versus us just bombarding everybody with advertising to say, hey, we're the best out there, you should buy our stuff, and then just keep doing it until somebody buys something. The real value is can we make an impact on somebody's life to the point where they will then tell their friends or family or somebody that they believe could also benefit from it, for that conversation to happen. We've grown like that for 20 years because the products work. Obviously, like from my perspective, like, yeah, I would love to have, $100 million to throw into marketing so that we could compete with Muscle Milk and Bang Energy and these companies that are just putting out products that, I wouldn't recommend, feeding to anything.
Yeah.
But it's just the world that we live in. So yeah, we're always on that higher echelon of everything. I haven't found a brand specifically in the United States that comes close to what we do in regards to a full lineup of products. There are companies out there that'll have like maybe one thing where it's like, man, that's amazing, or a couple things that are really good, but to have a full lineup of stuff is pretty rare. There's a couple companies overseas that you can kind of throw into that realm, but US based stuff, I haven't been able to find anything that really falls in that same category. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me a little bit about the guys who started it. What's their backgrounds again?
So Robin Kellen, he was an Olympic bobsleddist.
Okay.
Jesse Owens was actually one of his best friends. So something that we haven't publicly put out there yet is we actually have the flag, the Olympic flag that was draped over Jesse Owens' coffin at our office in Scottsdale.
Oh, wow.
They're going to frame it and put it up there. But Sandy and he were very good friends. Sandy was one of the first people to recruit sprinters to be on the bobsled teams. So that movie that we all know, that Cool Runnings,
Yeah.
that's based off of real stuff. They actually did go out and recruit sprinters to be on bobsled teams, and Sandy was one of those people. So that was his background as an athlete. He also did some professional water skiing and whatnot. But with all that, he messed his knees up. So in mid 90s, he created our joint product for himself. And it worked so well that after a couple months, he was so blown away by it that he created Euro Nutrition based out of the Netherlands. And that product has been provided to the medical community in Europe ever since. That
Right.
and our multivitamin have.
Right. Right.
So for over 20 years, we've had those two products.
Right.
Which
and
is, you'll know it as our immune boost. The
Right.
immune boost and the joint 4.
Yep. Which
So-
are some flagship supplements that you guys have. And I just think it's really impressive that, again, a lot of these like mainstream supplementation companies were not doing this 20 years ago, like this is like in the
Not
last,
even doing it now.
like last decade or something, where this like big push in supplementation and, everybody trying to compete with each other. And once again, like Xendurance just kind of been that silent assassin of just going like, hey, just take our products and it'll work. Like, we don't have to, put fancy faces and, flashy advertising in front of you. We're just going to put it into our products and it's going to work. And it has for me in the past. I'm a big supporter of Xendurance. So let's move now kind of into the supplementations themselves. Oh, hold on. Wither just asked, is that, and if you guys want to ask questions, right, you can go into your chat and ask questions. And I'm going to have kind of an open time at the end to be able to unmic you guys. And if you want to ask questions to Spencer, you definitely can. But just real quick, Wheeler said, is there something specific that we can catch on a list that makes a product or company good? Ingredients or process of extracting products?
To get the actual like quality of the ingredients specifically would be difficult because you'd have to have access to the labs and so on. But let me grab real quick. So it may be kind of difficult to see it, but do you see those two stamps right there?
Right. Yep, we can see it.
Informed Sport and Informed Choice, certified drug-free. Informed Sport is the #1 third-party tester in the world to make sure that you don't have banned substances in your products.
Right.
The benefit of having an Informed Sport product versus an NSF product is NSF allows banned substances into their facilities. Informed Sport does not. So you don't have to worry about contamination.
Sure.
So without actually looking at the labs to prove the quality of the dosing, which is difficult to get your hands on, I would say that Informed Sport, Informed Choice stamp would be the best thing to look for in regards to supplementation, because if a company is willing to take the steps to get that, probably you have a better chance of the overall, the overall formula being a higher quality. Other thing is if you find those stamps, if they have artificial ingredients in there like sucralose or aspartame potassium, aspartame, different colors and dyes, those should be red flags. So if they've got the stamp, yet they've got some of the artificials, I would steer clear from that, because if they're going to skimp on the ingredients using artificials, then the quality of the other ingredients potentially could be lower as well. Not to blanket statement and say that everybody that puts artificial ingredients puts low quality stuff in, but that tends to be more of the common thing.
Cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I'll definitely want to touch into Fuel 5 and how important that is and what you guys kind of built with that. I'm going to go through a couple supplements here. This is just a list that I kind of came up with, right? And I know this is dependent on every individual, right? But I'm just going to say, hey, the supplement, and I want you to say yes or no, right? It's beneficial, yes or no. Sounds good?
Yep.
Omega-3s,
Yes.
probiotics,
Yes.
green supplementation,
Yes.
protein powder,
Yes.
uh, EAAs, or essential amino acids.
Possibly.
Okay.
Depends on where it comes from.
We'll come back to that because that's one that I was talking to you earlier about. Multivitamin.
Yes. Also where it comes from.
Okay.
All of these are going to be where it comes from, but yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Multivitamins. Yeah.
Sleep supplementation.
Per the individual, but yes, if it's done right.
Okay. Caffeine.
If it's done right. That's a tricky one.
Okay. Vitamin D.
Yes.
And we've already talked about creatine.
Creatine is 100%. The Creapure specifically is the one that I would suggest, and that's just because I have so much data behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, they have thousands of case studies in clinicals, so one I'm completely okay with saying blanket statement. Creapure.
Right.
Yes.
So
Creapure is the brand name.
Let's come back to that. And there's other companies that have Creapure, correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the three that we kind of want to hit on, the essential amino acids, multivitamins, and caffeine are three that I kind of want to touch on because I know that a lot of people take multivitamins, right? And I think it's really important to be able to touch on that. Obviously, people don't recognize it, but like their coffee and their caffeine throughout the day, that is a supplementation, right? And I'd like you to be able to touch on that. And then the tricky one, right? Essential amino acids, where there's a lot of talk on the market, right? Of you got to have your essential amino acids, right? And if you don't have your essential amino acids, you're blowing all of your muscle gains and your body can't process and so on and so forth. But let's start first and foremost with the multivitamin, right? You said, hey, it kind of depends. Dive into that a little bit more. I want to know.
So multivitamins are supposed to be like the primary thing that makes up the difference for what's lacking in food production these days, right? If you're over farming or if you're mass producing stuff, you tend to lose quite a bit of the micronutrient density in there. Some multivitamins like Centrum, and just as not necessarily Centrum as a brand, but the same types of really hard pressed tablets. Unfortunately, those don't really break down in the system. So when I mentioned Sandy a little bit ago, the founder of Xendurance, a friend of his actually runs a waste management plant, and it's a big city. They pull anywhere between 1 and 2 55-gallon drums of hard multivitamin tablets out of their sewer system every day because they don't break down.
Oh, wow.
So your multivitamin needs to come from a source that can actually break down in your system. And if it's a hard tablet, and if you can drop it into a glass of water and it doesn't break down, then it ain't gonna break down in your system either. Or chances are it probably won't. So like the multivitamin that we have is they're capsulated, meaning that the ingredients themselves are loose within the cap. To give you an example of the quality of what we put into ours, do you know what a chelated mineral is? Have you heard of that term before?
No.
If you look at the spelling of it, it's almost looks like chelated. It's CHE. A chelated mineral is a micronized mineral that has an essential amino acid attached to it. So when your body sees the essential amino acid, it actually can pull the mineral in along with it. It's like a Trojan horse. So chelated minerals are the most expensive and most bioavailable minerals in the world. So our whole lineup of minerals and some of the vitamins that are in the multivitamin are all chelated. We also have a couple ingredients that specifically have been proven to help increase your own natural antioxidant production, which is the NRF2 gene. And then also the 2 ingredients that have been shown to help to prevent blue light damage from all the screens that we stare at all the time, which is zeaxanthin and lutein, are both in the pharmaceutical dosage and grade that have been tested and shown to do that. And that's all in our one multivitamin. So if you can get a good, clean multivitamin that comes in a capsule that maybe has some chelated minerals in it, and, you know, that's where like getting really into the actual ingredient list is really important. So you'll have to, you know, be a student of this. You can shoot yourself in the foot by taking stuff that doesn't really break down and really waste some money. But if you put a little effort into just doing some research on the ingredients themselves, on what does what's the higher end stuff like chelated minerals, then when you pick your multivitamin, you can have a much better understanding of what you want to look for, versus just going at it blindly and picking up what's most convenient. Because the most convenient tends to be also the most inexpensive one to make.
Right. Which I think it's super essential, right? That everybody kind of hears that, and hopefully, you know, I mean, I'm going to put this on YouTube, and hopefully more people hear about that, because I think people just grab the first multivitamin that they see, and supplementations in general. They just kind of go like, oh yeah, I don't know, nature's bounty, like, sure, because I've seen it before, like, right? Marketing and all that other kind of stuff.
And with the food based, like, essential greens, like eating as much vegetables and greens and stuff that you can get your hands on, helps to make up for what tends to be missing from people's daily activity, daily lives, is all those little micronutrients. And if you think about it in an analogy or way to reference it, is like, think of your body as being a big engine, and you put your macronutrients in there to keep it strong and to keep the fuel in there to get it running. And then your micronutrients are all like the little lubricants and other things to keep everything running smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just focus on the macronutrients, you may not have all the micronutrients to help everything run smoothly. And that's where having a good multivitamin, or being really conscious about putting a lot of good green leafy vegetables in your system, can help to fill in some of those gaps that might be missing.
Awesome. Yes, I totally agree. All right, so let's move on to the caffeine part, right? A lot of people take caffeine every single day, right? Whether it's tea, whether it's coffee, whether it's Bang energy drinks, or so on and so forth, right? Talk to us a little bit about caffeine supplementation, and then the caffeine that you guys do provide in your supplementation, and why it's a better caffeine to have than what we see in a lot of the other supplementations.
Okay. So first and foremost, caffeine as a whole has, I mean, I'm almost positive that it goes caffeine and then creatine for studies. Like, caffeine's, I believe, to be the most studied ingredient on the planet.
Yeah.
Lots of really positive things in the studies. Caffeine's not bad. Overdoing it can be. What caffeine's paired with is typically what people need to be concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you mentioned the energy drinks, most of your energy drinks are riddled with ingredients that are potentially pretty scary, right? Lots and lots of red flags, nothing that's been published yet that's completely damning on artificial ingredients. But if you're conscious about your health and wellness, you probably want to try to avoid that stuff as much as possible. Most of your energy drinks and, you know, things from coffee shops and so on tend to have a lot of the stuff in it that's not necessarily the best, or could be the best. So caffeine, usually if somebody's demonizing it, they're demonizing caffeine, yet it's probably the other stuff paired with it that should actually be the concern. They also mix the sources of caffeines. So if you get super jittery, it tends to be a blend. From my experience, is when I've had caffeine from other sources, you know, like Xendurance, we use organic green tea. If you use green tea and then 2 or 3 other different types of caffeine,
like a blend,
can cause your system to kind of go out of whack a little bit, right? At least from my personal experience. So having one source and having it being a clean source, you get the benefit of the caffeine, which is mostly going to be your cognitive function, without the negative side effects of getting jittery or having the discomfort within your system, throw your equilibrium out a little bit. I mean, my personal is, if I get bad caffeine, I tend to get like an upset stomach from it. And it's just because it's not mixing well with me. So we at Xendurance, we have 2 products that have caffeine in them. Our Fuel 5 Plus, which has 45 milligrams, and then the Focus, which has 130. So both are extremely low in comparison to other brands that put caffeinated stuff out. Like I believe Bang at least is like 300.
Yeah, it's pretty super high. And so with the
Per
Focus,
serving.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And the Focus
So
it is something new that you guys have put out. Now, is that same? It's 100 milligrams, but it's a clean source of caffeine, which is with the green tea, correct?
Yeah, and the Focus, from my perspective, as well as the research, is absolutely insane. It's 130 milligrams of organic green tea caffeine, and there's no artificial ingredients at all. It's paired with L-theanine, I believe is what it is. I have a tough time pronouncing that one, but it's a essential amino. Beetroot powder, and then alpha size alpha GPC. Alpha size is the only clinically proven alpha GPC in the world that has been shown to actually break that blood-brain barrier, which is actually increases cognitive function. So there's about 80 or so studies that they've done so far that show really, really impressive results with the cognitive side. So a lot of really good nootropic-based research. And then the performance enhancing stuff, which is something that they actually stumbled upon. They weren't anticipating performance stuff, but through their research and the studies that they've done, it's actually been shown to have some pretty impressive performance stuff too. My personal take on caffeine, especially around training, because that's typically when people are like, man, I need something to get me through this training session. If you're doing anaerobic stuff, where you're when you're lack of oxygen, so you're anaerobic respiratory energy system, when you exceed like 40 or 50 milligrams of caffeine, you run the risk of potentially cutting off your blood flow, which is not good for doing a workout where you're breathing hard. Right? Because then you're not getting oxygen from the inside and from the outside. So that's why the Fuel 5 Plus has that small amount in there to help combat that a little bit. Well, based off the information that I have from the research that I've done with the alpha size and some of the stuff that I've heard from their folks, is that it actually, having the alpha size paired with that caffeine in the Focus, helps to offset so that you don't get the vasoconstriction from the caffeine, even at that higher amount, because of how the alpha size actually works in the system, which to me, I was blown away, because my whole thing with supplements has always been like, hey, if you're going to do something where you're breathing hard, be careful with doing too much caffeine.
Right.
Because aerobically, it's been shown to be very beneficial. So you're going to run for a couple hours at conversation pace. The science behind that is great.
Yeah.
Shows that it really helps to maintain better energy systems through that long workout.
Right.
But if you're going to sprint, probably not the best, because you could potentially be, kind of shooting yourself in the foot a little bit. But that alpha size paired with it, great. And from my personal experience, I can actually vouch for that.
Cool.
Taking it right before a training session, like 10 minutes before, and I actually felt like I breathed better.
Yeah.
And I think it's from the beetroot powder specifically, but it could just be also from not getting that constriction that you would typically get from the caffeine.
Right.
I'm super impressed. I mean, every little bit of information I get for the alpha size, it's like blown away each time I get more content. I'm super impressed by it.
Right. And that's a new product that they just released, guys. And I definitely would check that out. You have free samples as well with that?
Yes.
Is that still going on?
So yeah, with Xendurance, you can actually, there's a free app. So you can go into the app store on your phone, download the app. Within the app, there's a brain quiz or a brain game. The idea behind the brain game is it's a 1 minute long game. If you get 5 answers right or more, then at the end of it, you put in your address and the company will send you 2 free servings of the Focus for you to try for yourself. I recommend then taking the Focus and then redoing that brain quiz or that brain test to see if you do better. So it's like an open label study that we want for people to experience for themselves.
Yeah.
So basically, download the app for free,
Okay.
do the quiz or the test for free, get a couple samples for free. And if you like it, awesome. If not, maybe next time.
Totally. Cool. And if people aren't going to supplement right with Xendurance when it comes to caffeine, what's your cleanest sources of caffeine, right? Everybody's out there that are having kind of caffeine, and you kind of touched a little bit on it when it comes to coffee. What would be like, hey, your go-to, right? If you had a palate for it, what's your clean caffeines that are going to be out there?
My preference is either going to be like a straight nitro cold brew, or brew my own green tea.
Cool. Yeah. Yep.
I'm not a big sweets kind of person. The most I would typically put into the cold brew would maybe be a little bit of like coconut milk or the dense stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you cook with the thicker stuff. But other than that, like I prefer the taste of a good black coffee.
Right. I agree. All right. Well, let's move on to the essential amino acids. And then I'm going to ask you about kind of the top 3 supplements, right? If we were just kind of talking about average, right? I'm going to put you on the spot because I know that all of these supplements can be good depending on the individual. And then I'm going to open it up for questions, you guys. If you guys start having questions, right, you've heard some of the stuff that Spencer has said, just put in the chat box real quick. Hey, this is the question that I have. That way it kind of primes me to be able to ask Spencer that. So if you guys have questions right now that's formulating in your head or stuff we haven't covered, just click down into the chat, throw it into the chat, right? And we'll be able to kind of answer it from there. So let's, real short, let's touch into essential amino acids. What are they? Are they something that are as essential as they are said to be?
Okay, so typically it's when I get asked about amino acids, it's usually BCAAs, not specifically EAAs. It's very difficult to find an essential amino acid product out there. Most of the time, they're branched chain amino acids. Diving through the research of branched chain amino acids over the years, I've pretty much come to the conclusion that none of them are really worth your money. The reason is because when your body's looking for building blocks, the building blocks typically come in big chains. Proteins are polypeptides, right? So your amino acids come in big groups, and then your system cuts them up and puts them into your system where they need. Just regular single amino acids, not in big groups, tend to get passed up by the system more than not. So if you're wanting the building blocks, I actually recommend doing either just a good powdered protein to be able to get those amino acids, or eat real meat. I personally will never buy an essential amino acid product or a branched chain amino acid product, just because the data suggests that you have a very, very low absorption rate just because your cells don't really recognize them very much. So I don't put stock in them at all. I genuinely believe that you should eat your amino acids. And if you're not getting enough, I think that a good clean protein supplement should be your amino acid source and not from a cheap version. So And then the reason why they're so heavily marketed is because they are so cheap to make. It would blow your mind if you had any idea how cheap those things are.
The margins on them are so big.
Margins are insane.
Yeah.
So because the margins are insane, everybody out there producing the exact same stuff is going to tell you that you absolutely need it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you based off the research that I've had that the data suggests otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, I can go online right now and say, search Google custom protein label, right? And I could create my own custom protein blend, right?
Yep.
If you can do that, right, that's usually a sign that this isn't a very high quality product, and it's really easy to be able to make, because you wouldn't custom anything if it wasn't easy to distribute, right? You don't just get to go and custom a Ferrari, right, and have it sent to your house. Like, it's too special. You got to go there, and there's a process to it. So cool. I'm glad that you touched on that. Let's move to your top 3 supplements, right? If you had to pick, right, everything else had to be stripped away. Your top 3 supplements that you would suggest just to the average population. And then I'm going to open it up for questions if you guys have it. If not, we'll close it out with Spencer. So top 3.
Okay, so my top 3 actually has shifted a little bit, and I'll actually give you a 4th one just because my top 3 was set until the focus came into play.
Right.
So if I was going to pick 3, it would be the Extreme Endurance, which is this product. Extremely unique. The science behind it is amazing. It helps to buffer oxidative stress and free radical damage and a whole bunch of other like really good stuff at the cellular level. That is crazy, but there's nothing like it in the world, so it's very hard to explain anything that you can compare it to. Best thing is to just test it for yourself. So what we typically have people do that workout is do a workout, take it for 7 days, redo that exact same workout so that you can see for yourself.
Yeah. And I personally have done that, you guys, where I've done Karen. If you guys aren't familiar with Karen, 150 wall balls. And I did exactly what Spencer said, 7 days of the extreme tablets, and came back and I performed better at Karen 7 days later. Right. It's a product that if anyone's ever taken, they've said, man, this stuff works. So I just wanted to throw my own personal little spot on that of me using it, but continue.
Yep. Okay. So that one, absolutely. The Immune Boost, which is sort of the multivitamin, we don't get enough nutrients from our food. That's my primary reason why I picked that as my second, is because food. Creatine would be in there also. Like, that was my 3, my holy trinity was the creatine, the Extreme Endurance, and the Immune Boost, because of the essentials. Not being able to get that stuff from food, because you can even throw that Extreme Endurance in the mix too, because the way that it buffers and helps to regulate your system. It's very difficult to get enough nutrients in your body to do that.
Right.
And that's focus,
the main is the main ingredient there, magnesium.
Magnesium is one of the big ones. Yes.
One of the big ones, right?
So
okay.
the way that it's formulated is what makes it so potent.
Sure. Okay.
So it was designed. It was put together in order to deliver into your system, not in your gut, or not in your stomach, but in your intestines. So it helps to do a whole bunch of different antioxidant type things in your system.
Right.
Buffers free radicals, your oxidative stress, without getting too nerdy with it. It's extremely beneficial for just balancing the body.
And I guess what I should say too is, like, we talk a lot about like performance, right? And it's super good for performance, but it is really good just for the average person as well when we're talking about fighting free radicals, because there are so many radicals that are in our system, from light pollution to the food that we're eating to the water that we're drinking. So the more that we can be fighting those free radicals, the better health that you will be in just day-to-day energy and vitality and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to say that, because I know we talked about the performance, which is great, but just the day-to-day is also beneficial.
Yeah, and to add to that, the products that I'm talking about that are mine, my top three, really top four, are health. None of it's performance related.
Right.
This is to really, for me, to optimize my own health and wellness so that I can be a better human being on a day-to-day basis, and hopefully extend the length of it, of the whole thing, for a long time.
Right.
So a lot of proactive so that I can get a longer life and have it more productive. So extreme endurance, the immune boost, the creatine, and the focus. Those are mine. Like, no matter what, I'm going to keep taking.
Hands down.
The focus, I have my own personal reasons. You know, I have a diagnosis that I don't want to put into the public, especially if you're going to put it on YouTube, but I have some personal stuff. I take medicine specifically for, and for me personally, like, I've been able to, with just the focus product alone, I've been able to not take my medicine. The longest length of time was 9 days.
Wow.
And not miss any, like,
wow,
not have any mix-ups.
That's awesome.
Amazing. So that's my own personal.
Cool.
Everybody's going to be a little bit different. So my personal experience is I've got some medicine that I'm supposed to take on a daily basis that I haven't needed to. And it's been great because I felt as though like I was married to it, or I was forced into taking something, because otherwise, like, you know, life just didn't function properly.
Right.
This has given me that outlet of not being dependent on it.
Sure.
Right. And some could argue like, well, you know, you're subbing one for the other, but the benefit is this actually, the focus product actually has stuff that my body can use really, really positively.
Right.
Where the actual medication has stuff that can be negative.
Right. Right.
So if I'm gonna pick one or the other, I'm gonna pick the one that I know that is helpful versus the one that has some links to some harmful things.
Right. Yep. I totally agree. And that's again a claim to Xendurance, and just how focused they are in terms of like keeping it pure. You know, like you don't see like, oh, there's sweet potato, you know, extract in like supplementations. Like, it's usually words you can't pronounce. And so it's really cool that they take that stance. All right. I'm going to open it up for anybody that has any questions, right? I'll unmute you guys if you guys have. Oh, Lauren has hers force mute. Chris, force mute. Marilyn, do you have any questions? I know Marilyn asked, where can you buy Creapure Creatine, right? The product that Creapure Creatine that you guys produce is what?
So ours is Creatine JB. We use Creapure as the foundation of it. You can search Creapure directly and just buy straight Creapure if you want. You will need to mix it with something, because creatine needs a little bit of a carbohydrate or a sugar paired with it to help the cells absorb it. So you can get your own just raw creatine or raw Creapure. You'll have to mix it into something. You don't want to do with anything like too citrus based, because the citrus has been shown to potentially disrupt it or to buffer it, make it not so good. You also want to be concerned about not taking caffeine and creatine at the same time, because those two have been shown in some studies to potentially be buffering each other as well. So my suggestion is, if you're going to do caffeine, just wait to do the creatine. I've read some case studies that have shown that if you take your creatine in the evening, you have the potential of it increasing some good hormone production and other good things for your sleep cycles. So I do it at nighttime to avoid caffeine overlap, because I don't want to potentially buffer the caffeine or the creatine.
Right.
And I also want to potentially have the benefit of that nighttime, you know, in my own system of it being more productive.
Right.
So that's the caffeine creatine thing that I wanted to make sure that we put out there. And
cool.
What I'm referencing is specifically from Creapure. Creapure says 2 hours for caffeine. Like, if you had coffee at noon, that you could have your creatine at 2. my personal opinion is I want to wait about 5 or 6 hours just so that caffeine has the potential of being out of my system or at a level low enough to where it's not conflicting with the creatine.
Right. And
I always err on the side of caution for my own personal,
right.
but Creapure says 2 hours is okay.
Well, and in general, right, and this is something that I talk to people a lot about, is that we should really avoid afternoon caffeine as much as we possibly can. Some people are really good at processing caffeine, right? My dad is one of those who can have coffee at 8 o'clock and be out later. But really trying to avoid that in general, keeping our caffeine in the morning, and then that only being our only thing, because we should be resting and recovering enough that we don't have a crash in the afternoon. So that would make sense with the creatine as well. Does anybody have?
It's your sympathetic and parasympathetic responses, right? So caffeine is a sympathetic response, which is your fight flight, right? And if you're later in the day, you want to be on that parasympathetic side. You want to be in that rest and digest state.
That's right. Yeah, we talk a lot about that, dude. Most people are on the whoop, and so they hear that from me all the time, right? Marilyn knows about that. Lauren knows about it. Yeah, my dad knows about it. Lauren, do you have any questions that you want to talk to Spencer about when it comes to supplementation?
I guess one question I have is, what's the best timing? Should you always take your protein quickly after your workout, or try to eat your protein instead of drinking it? I heard that a few times.
I prefer to take my protein and training carbohydrates together as a pre-workout. And the reason is because I like to be proactive about what I put in my system. So like, I'll put the carbohydrates in pre-training for a couple reasons. I want to fuel my workout properly. So when I'm breathing hard, because I typically do anaerobic stuff. Anaerobic respiratory energy system is more glycogen driven, right? So that's your sugars. Aerobic respiratory energy system is more of your fats, because it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to convert your fats into fuel without oxygen. So if you're going to do high intensity training, carbohydrates. Well, carbohydrates also stimulate that fight flight response that Joel and I were just talking about, that sympathetic response. So if I want to get into a workout and I really want to trigger that fight flight response, because that workout's a fight, and I want to fuel it properly, I want my good carbohydrates in pre, so that I can really get after it. Mm-hmm. Well, I mix the protein with it too, because I'm also trying to be proactive about that. I want the protein in my system so that as soon as I'm done and my body starts to shift over into that parasympathetic side, I can already start using the protein for my recovery, because the parasympathetic is your rest and digest. So pre-digested carbohydrates, pre-digested protein I mix them together, train, and then post-workout, I don't do anything. I don't take any protein supplements. I don't do anything. I wait until my body tells me to eat real food, and then I eat real food.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Love it. Justin, I know you just hopped back on, dude. Do you have any questions that you want to ask Spencer?
I think he oh, Wheeler.
I think the only question I have is,
oh, you're breaking up, dude. Justin, you there?
Sorry.
Justin, you there?
Hello.
There we go.
Yeah, you got me?
I think we got you for now.
Okay, sorry. Pre-existing heart condition guy. So, the one question I have is just around, and obviously I'm working with a cardiologist, but like the blockchain amino acids, what theoretically is a risk? Do you have any idea?
For BCAA products?
Yeah.
So the things that stick out to me most about BCAA products is how ineffective they are. Lots of studies that are in vitro based studies, meaning they're specifically injecting them into the cells, not having any response. So just the idea of wasting money bothers me. In regards to the how it could be a health-based thing, the cardiologist that you're working with is going to be the person that you want to reference specifically for your own personal stuff. But from my perspective, typically your branched chain amino acid products are paired with artificial ingredients, which should throw quite a bit of red flags. Those would be the things that I would be concerned about affecting you. And I would reference the doctor, let them tell you, because I'm not a physician and I'm not here to prescribe to, you know, I'm going to give you my perspective off the data that I have and my personal experience. I would be more concerned about the artificials than anything. And that would be something that you would definitely want to talk to your doctor about.
All right, so secondary follow-up to that question. I appreciate it. I certainly didn't expect you to give me any kind of prescription, but the secondary follow-up to that is, are there things that you can do from a natural, not supplement, from a natural substance, you know, foods to make up for those amino acids, the BCAAs?
Eat good, clean protein sources.
Okay.
Yeah, so like if you have access to things that maybe are organic or wild, I would definitely go that route first. And then stuff that hasn't been hormonally enhanced, right? Because you can get non-organic stuff that also doesn't have the hormones injected into it and whatnot. But I would start with wild organic, natural, and then, I mean, when you go and you eat out, you're kind of at the mercy of what they're purchasing. You know, Joel, you brought up probiotics earlier. I actually think that digestive enzymes actually play a bigger role than probiotics do. If you're eating out often, or if you're really just periodically, if you eat clean at home and then you go out to eat, chances are it's going to be way different in quality. And taking a good digestive enzyme along with that meal when you're out, from my experience, has been a godsend, because what I'm used to eating and then what I eat when I'm out can tend to disrupt my digestive system. So helping that along, I take the enzyme, which can help with breaking down proteins and sugars and fats and other stuff that our bodies don't really do a very good job of doing, or from the sources that they're coming from. So this is the one that I've been using for years.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
These are great.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Marilyn, do you have any questions other than the one that you sent me?
I think the only other thing would be, you gave us the list of supplements, like the top 3, or was it 4 supplements that everyone should be taking? Would you add?
Those are what I personally. Everybody's going to have their own foundation, but like if you're like, hey, I just want somewhere to start, that would be a good start. But there's some things that each of you may need individually that we didn't talk about. You know, everybody's going to have some differences because we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different experiences. You know, but if I was going to be just, hey, if you're just looking at starting something and you want to try it, those would be the ones that I would say. Like if you're just, I don't have any specifics that I need for, those would be the ones. But I would highly recommend just taking a look at the list of different items that we have, because there may be some stuff that you're currently taking that there's something similar that we have that might be might be a little bit better or just different, and you can get some different results from.
Okay.
Yeah. But sorry I cut you off. I think you had more to it. I didn't mean to take over that. I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I think that maybe that would be a good starting point. I get a little excited. I'm like, okay, these 3 things, what do you add on top of it if you're an athlete? You know, if there's anything that you would add specifically to athletes.
The Fuel 5 would be a great addition in there. I would say Fuel 5 even before the protein, just because supplementing a good clean carbohydrate into your training sessions can make a huge impact. And frankly, a lot of the sources that people use for their carbohydrates around training are subpar, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So putting in a good, clean source can get you all the good performance benefits that you're looking for without running the risk of negative impact from other things in there, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah, like I wouldn't recommend drinking Gatorade or
Oof.
stuff that's got artificials in it as your carb source. You know, a lot of people gummy bears and Pop Tarts and stuff, and
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah, peanut butter
doesn't-
jelly sandwiches.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. Chris, do you have anything? Do you have any questions about supplementations or anything like that? No? Okay.
No, no.
All right. All right, Spencer. I threw in the link, you guys, to the Xendurance for the website. But Spencer, what's the best way to be able to follow up with you, right? If people are interested in purchasing something and they want some guidance, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Me personally, probably email would be the easiest just for everybody. Spencer, it's SPNCER.XND@gmail.com. And then from there, just if we need a quicker communication, I'll just send my telephone number to text or get on a phone call or
Cool.
through Zoom or.
Yep. And
then you have your link through XMD also.
Right.
So if you guys are interested in product, I would actually, there's a different link that Joel has that I would recommend, getting from him. So that if you do purchase, then, it's through the source of this. And yeah, I mean, please feel free to reach out and ask questions about stuff. If I don't have the answer, because I don't know all of it, but I'm a student. I like to read and research and do my own thing. If I don't personally have the answer or a place where I can reference it, I will find it for you. And I have a personal relationship with quite a few of the folks within the supplement industry that are actually on the manufacturing side. I'm friends with one of the guys from Creapure, so I can ask him direct questions. The folks from Alpha Size are actually here in Austin where I'm at, and I'm trying to get an appointment set up to actually meet with the head guy because I want to just pick his brain and build that relationship. So if there's any questions or you guys need references on stuff, just feel free to reach out. I can get some stuff for you.
Awesome. Yeah, and guys, I'll send through True Coach Spencer's number if you guys want to personally reach out to him. In the chat box, I put Spencer's email, which I will also follow up and put in True Coach as well. So Spencer, I appreciate your time and the knowledge that you gave to us today. This is very beneficial and it covered a lot of different topics. I always appreciate you. If you guys need to reach out to Spencer, like I said, the information will be in True Coach.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time. I know middle of the day on a Friday is not always the best, but thank you very much for letting me share that stuff with you guys. And again, please feel free to reach out if you need me to clarify anything or if you need some more information. Cool, man.
All right, you guys. Well, I appreciate it. I will let you guys know when the next webinar is and what we're going to be covering. All right, guys.
Sounds good.
Have a great Friday.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Of course.